Last month we heard how King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream about a giant statue, and only Daniel, with the help of God, could tell him what the dream was and what it meant. Well, we're continuing today from Daniel 3. And King Nebuchadnezzar could not forget that statue that he dreamt about. So he decided to make it a reality. And he would make the most magnificent, mighty statue the world had ever seen. And then everyone would know how important he was. So he called all his builders and his designers together and said, I want a statue which people can worship, and it must be huge. Well, of course, Your Majesty, they said. We will get a big, huge block of stone and we can make a really tall statue. No, said Nebuchadnezzar, I don't want it out of stone, and I don't want it just tall. I want it to be colossal and not out of stone. Anyone can have a statue out of stone. I want it out of gold. Well, quite a task, but that is what happened. A colossal statue of gleaming gold was erected on the plains of Dura in Babylon, and people could see it from miles around. Maybe it looked something like this. The king was delighted, and he ordered all his officials together. They came from provinces and lands far and wide, all the important people. There were princes, there were governors, there were commissioners, there were treasurers, there were judges, there were magistrates, and any other important dignitaries you can think of. They gathered together before this dazzling statue of gold, which was about 27 metres high and 3 metres wide. That's about the size of 8 houses stacked on top of each other. When all was hushed, a herald came forward and made an announcement. People of all nations, races and languages, you are gathered here to celebrate the mightiness of King Nebuchadnezzar. Now, as soon as the royal band starts and they play their oboes and lyres and zithers and harps, you must all bow down and worship this golden statue of King Nebuchadnezzar. Anyone who does not bow down and worship will be thrown into the blazing, fiery furnace. Up started the orchestra, and all around the important people, as soon as it started, bowed low before the statue. All that is, except 3 people. 3 Jews who would not break God's commandments. They would not bow to any other image. They would be true to God, and they would worship God alone. Who were these 3 men? The friends of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego. Now those officials who were jealous of Daniel's friends were delighted that at last they had a way to be rid of them. And they saw that the 3 men hadn't bowed down, and they went straight to the king. Oh, your majesty, your majesty. They snivelled, bowing and scraping. Oh, you gave the order that everyone must bow down and worship your statue. But Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, they disobeyed you. They didn't bow down. The king was furious, and he flew into a mighty rage. He had the 3 men brought before him. Is it true that you refuse to worship my God and bow before the statue I have made? I will give you another chance, though, because he did like them and liked what Daniel had done before. I will give you another chance. I order you to bow down when the music plays again. If you fail in this, you will be thrown into the blazing furnace. No God can save you from that. We do not want another chance, Your Majesty, replied the men. We will never bow down to anyone but our God. Our God will be able to rescue us from the fire if it is his will. But even if he does not choose to save us, we will still only be loyal to him. On hearing this, the king's face turned red with anger, and he was fuming. Heat up the furnace, he yelled, and make it hotter than it's ever been before. The servants stoked up the brick kiln with charcoal until the coals burnt white hot, 7 times hotter than usual. Now, guards, he ordered his strongest soldiers, tie these men up tightly so they can't escape, and then throw them into the centre of the furnace. The fire was so hot that as the soldiers got close to throw Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego into the incinerator, they themselves were engulfed in the flames. Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego fell into the heart of the blazing fire. Surely nothing could save them. Serve them right, thought the king moodily. Suddenly, as he watched, Nebuchadnezzar's expression changed. He jumped up in amazement. How many men did we throw into the furnace? Didn't we tie up and throw in 3? Yes, Your Majesty. Well, why do I see 4 men walking about in the fire? He spluttered. One looks like an angel of the Lord. And they're not tied up, they're not bound. With this, Nebuchadnezzar went closer and called into the door. Shadrach, he called. Meshach, Abednego, you who serve the supreme God, come out! The 3 men stepped out of the furnace. Their skin was not burnt. Their hair was not singed. Their clothes were not damaged at all. And they didn't even smell of smoke. They were completely unharmed, except for the ropes which had bound them. They'd burnt away, but without harming them. And of God's angel, there was no sign. Nebuchadnezzar was astounded, as were all the important dignitaries who'd gathered there to watch. Praise to your God, said Nebuchadnezzar to the 3 rescued men. Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, your God is truly great. Listen, everyone, he said to the crowd. These men here, they disobeyed my orders and risked their own lives rather than worship any god except their own. I now command that no one is ever to say a word against their God, for no other God could rescue his followers like this.